Hey hackers, Blue Cosmo from CCS here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be talking about Bash, the Linux terminal, and all the cool stuff we can do with it. So today we're kind of getting you started. It's going to be kind of a little bit more freeform, kind of getting you a little bit more stuff, and it's kind of be also a little bit of a knowledge dump. But everything is on the slides. If you guys download the PDF file at the beginning of this course, then you can just use that. Also, this is a course on cosmodiumcs.com/courses. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to have to deal with ads, and you won't have some of the cool assets that you get on the course for free on the cosmodiumcs.com/courses website. So definitely check it out. But until then, let's get started. So we are talking about Bash, right? In the previous video, I actually showed you guys how to open the terminal, how to update and do some basic stuff with the terminal, right? We kind of use sudo a little bit, maybe a little bit of apt. But yeah, so basically the terminal is how we can navigate and operate our computer. It works through a language called Bash, or by default, most Linux distributions will use Bash. So let's learn a little bit about Bash, right? So what's some vocabulary oriented around Bash? So a directory is simply a folder. That's it. I'm sure you guys have used folders thousands of times on like something like Windows on your desktop, where you have like 30 folders covering your entire desktop. Yeah, that is what a folder is. But in this case, in Linux, and we will typically refer to them as a directory. You will literally see them in like right here. You can see these are a bunch of directories. I can delete this file.txt here. But yeah, so these are a bunch of directories here. We can see I have my downloads directory. I have my desktop directory, cybersecurity directory, imports directory, media directory, notebook directory, also known as folders. But so that's what those are. And then files. I'm sure you guys know what, or you guys already know what a file is. File is basically a set of data contained in a program. You guys see files all the time. You guys see like my red row file here. We have a shell file here, another rat file here. Program, Python files, Microsoft Word documents are files, PowerPoint files, spreadsheet files, you name it, files. You see them all the time. So those are the two terms to refer to those. Something else we have are flags. Flags basically specify or specific operations in different programs. So they specify specific operations. We'll learn a little bit more about what a flag is. I'll kind of point them out as we go through the course, but just know that they specify specific operations. Arguments do something similar, but they specify information. So they specify specific information that we can run operations on. You guys will see a little bit more about how these two are interlinked later, but until then, just know that these are those terms for those things. So let's talk about the file system. So if we go on our virtual machine here, we have our parent OS virtual machine. You guys can actually click on the blue C's home, or whatever your username's home folder is, and I'll quickly kind of just there you go, so you guys can kind of see a little bit better. These are all our directories on the computer, right? So we have a documents directory, we have a downloads directory, we have a music directory, we have a videos directory, templates directory, public directory, pictures directory. We have all these directories on the computer. So right, this is where your downloads will be, this is where your documents will be, whatever. In our terminal, right, when we look at that parent folder and that root folder, right, you guys can see the tilde here representing a home folder, and that'll kind of come in 2 point later. Whoops, let me go back into there. But if we actually go to the file system, how we go to the file system right there, perfect. File system, right? So you guys can see, hey, we have this whole file system right here. You can hit this pencil, and when I hit that little pencil thing to kind of show the direct path of the file, you'll see it's just the /. That / that was representing the parent directory. So the parent directory is kind of like this big directory that hosts all the little directories, and basically every folder or every directory and file on the computer is in this parent directory. All right, so I'm gonna kind of explain what all of these are, right? You guys see a lot of these. You see a lib, you see home, you see roots, you see proc, opt, boots. I'll quickly explain what a lot of these actually are. So the /bin directory, right? So the / and then we have our bin directory. This is basically a directory that contains a bunch of binaries for programs. So a bunch of binaries, a bunch of information, a bunch of files. That's where that computer will store all that information. Boot, this is where all the information for the computer to boot up is stored. So you probably don't want to touch this file, but hey, you know, you don't want to touch, you pretty much don't want to touch any of these files. Not all of them, but a fair amount of them, especially as a beginner. But so boot, that kind of just, you know, has all the information for the file system to actually boot from. /dev contains information on device files. / etc. It's kind of just a general information kind of dump area where other programs will just dump information. That etc. You know, literally standing for etc. It's just extra information. That's where that kind of is stored. Your home folder. So this is actually the central directory for users, right? So if you go on /home, you guys can see my user account, Blue Cosmo, right there, and that has all of my main directory. So like if you guys use Windows, for example, this is where your downloads for your user is. This is where for your desktop for your user is. This is where for everything for that user is stored, and that /home directory. Cool. So I can go back. All right, then we have /lib. This is where computer libraries are stored. /media. This is kind of where external storage goes. So if you plug in a USB drive to a computer, it will automatically be mounted to your /media. So you can go to /media, then the user. I don't have anything plugged into this computer, but if you had a USB drive in here, this is where it would show up. So after media, we have /mount, and this is where you can kind of mount storage partitions. I don't think this is used too often, but hey, you know, it's there for a reason. Next up, we have the file system content, right? So this is some more directories and purpose, right? The /opt is for external software. /opt is actually a directory you can use if you're downloading other files and programs off of your computer that you want to be kind of shared amongst other users on the computer. Then you can kind of just store them in the opt directory. Then we have /proc. This is kind of where CPU information is stored, kernel information is stored for a lot of, I guess, the processes of the computer. /root. So if you didn't know, root is the administrative user on Linux. Root is the administrative user on Linux. One more time, root is the administrative user on Linux. Okay. So if you go in the root directory, you can see they have like a desktop folder. They'll have their own downloads folder. This is basically the same exact thing as the home directory, but for the administrative account on the operating system, which is called root. Then we have /run, which kind of holds and stores temporary data. We have sbin, which is for the super user, right? Super user root, hence the name. Sbin is super user binaries. So basically the same thing as the /bin folder that we saw earlier, but this time it is specified for the super user. We also have /user, which is just general user information. /srv, which is for server information. If you're using your Linux to host a server or anything of the such. /tmp, which is just to hold temporary files, and /var contains logs. I know that's a lot. You don't have to know all that, but just knowing some of the general things like root, for example, knowing. I just realized that root is in here twice, but hey, you guys get the idea then, twice. Then we have things like the opt directory as well, the home directory and such. All right, so let's talk about bash file syntax. Today we're covering file syntax about files and file syntax that is oriented around files. To make this easier for everybody, I'm gonna just move that over there. Perfect. So kind of help everyone understand what's going on. Let's do a ls command. Ls command simply lists all the contents of a directory. So we can do ls and it'll list all the contents of a directory, and we can see, hey, there's our desktop, there's our downloads, there's our pictures. How is that? Because this is our current directory, that home directory, right? If we go back here and we go to our home directory, which is right here, and then our username, which is right here, you guys can see, hey, these are the exact same directories that we can view in our terminal. Because our terminal is basically allowing us to navigate the computer and control operations on the computer. So that tilde that you see right here is representing all of our current path, right? In fact, we can actually view our current path by printing the working directory, aka pwd. And we type that, we can see we're in the home directory and then the user of our home directory. So that's kind of how that works. So now we have print and work directory. We have ls. Again, I've covered in the past, but clears our terminal to make it easier to see. You can also do like Control L, and that will also clear your terminal for you to make it a little bit easier if you don't want to type out clear. So what else do we have? We have the ability to make directories, right? We see all these directories already in our computer. Let's make a directory. So we can do mkdir to make a directory, and we'll call this directory folder. So when we make that, we actually make a folder in our File Explorer. You guys see it just popped up here, and if we list, we can see we now have that folder directory right here that wasn't there before, right? So that's kind of how we can make directories. We can actually change directories, right? Right now we are in the, if we pwd, we can see that we are in the home/blue Cosmo directory where all of our folders are. Let's actually check out if we can go into the folder directory. To do that, we can just do a change directories command. So change directory, which is cd, and we're going to go into the folder. Now to autocomplete, you can actually hit tab and it'll just finish it off for you if whatever you're spelling out exists within your current directory or whatever path of the directory you're trying to reach. But yeah, you can hit the tab to kind of autocomplete if you have that already in there. Cool, so we can actually cd into folder, and we do that. We say, hey, now we're in the home directory / the folder directory. So if you can actually, if you want to, you can actually cd into the tilde, and it'll take you back to the home directory. So we can list, and we can see now we're in this directory, right? If we cd into the folder directory and list, you can see that we are in our folder directory. There's no files in our directory. We can even cd / to the parent directory. And if we list, we can see all of those super interesting directories that we learned about, like the root directory, the op directory, the home directory, the mount directory, right? And we can cd back into our home directory where all of our user files are. Cool. So let's go back into our folder and let's create a file. So there's two ways we can create files. The first way we can do it is by simply touching a file. So we can do touch to create a file, and we'll just call this hello.txt. I'm sure you guys are familiar with text files. It is just a file that contains text. We can touch it, and if we list, we now have hello in our folder directory. Pretty cool. But if we want to add content easily, we can actually use a series of processes, right? So first off, we have something called the echo command. The echo command will basically output any text you attach after it. So I can do echo hello, and it will echo out or output hello. We can actually even put this in quotes if we want to. If we were trying to consolidate a bunch of text into one format, we can do hello world like that, and it'll echo out hello world. Keep it all consolidated for us. So let's say we actually want to add this to a file. We can do echo, and then we can just do hello, and then we can use the greater than operator. The greater than operator basically will just redirect the output of this command. So it'll redirect the echo hello in this case, or whatever command we're running. Whatever output it returns will be saved to a file, and we can call this we'll just call this file.txt. So now if we list, we have two files. We have a file.txt and a hello file. So if we want to actually look at the contents of a file, we can actually do cat. Cat will basically show us the output or contents of a file. Right, so if we cat hello.txt, nothing's going to show up because nothing is in the hello.txt. But because we echoed out the word hello into our file.txt, if we cat file, we'll see hello because it's outputting that text. And just for some context, right, if we go into our folder and we see we have a file.txt and hello.txt, if we go in our file.txt, you'll see that hello command right there, or the hello text right there. So it's doing exactly what we could do manually with our mouse, but in a quicker format through the terminal. It's pretty cool, right? So now we have the ability to do all of those things. So let me clear, and let's talk about the notation of period and double period, right? So if I do ls, or yeah, so we have the period. So the period basically represents the current directory, right? So if I do cd into period, nothing's going to happen because this represents our current directory. So it's saying change directories into the current directory. So that's not going to do much, but we can do cd ... and ... represents the previous directory. So if we want to go out of folder and into our home directory, then we can do cd dot dot, and it's going to take us into the previous directory. So if we list, we are back in our home folder. But where does the dot, something like the dot, come in? Well, I'll show you guys. I'll show you guys where something like the dot comes in, right? So let's talk about something like the copy command. So the copy command allows us to copy a file to a location. So we can do cp, which represents copy, and we can move the folder, and then let's move our hello.txt file into our current directory. So that's what our period represents. So this first argument, remember arguments? Yeah. So this first argument for the copy command is the file that we want to move. And then the second argument is the location, which is that period, which is our current directory. So if we run this, it will copy the folder /hello.txt file into our home directory. So if we list, we can see the hello.txt file is now in our home directory. And if we go over here, we can see we have that file right there as well. I'll go ahead and delete that. Actually, I didn't really need to do that, but yeah. We can also use the move. So if we wanted to move a file instead of copying it, right? Because if we list the folder directory, the hello is still there because we just made a copy of it. But if we want to move, let's move the file.txt, or move folder /file.txt, and we want to move it into, let's say, our downloads directory. We can do so. And we moved it into our downloads directory. So if we list all the files in our downloads directory, you'll see that file.txt file in our downloads directory. So let's say we want to remove that file. We can do a rm to remove, and then we'll take the argument of the location of the file, which is downloads /file.txt, and we can hit that, and there you go. It's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. So now if we actually list in the downloads, there's nothing in there anymore, right? But if we list folder, we still have our hello.txt there, but we moved the file.txt out. We can actually go ahead and touch, so I'll touch, let's say world.txt, and then we can touch a new proof of concept.txt into here, right? Now, let's say I wanted to actually move those text files into our folder. We have something called the asterisk. The asterisk represents all. So if we wanted to move all the .txt files in our current directory into our folder directory, we can do so. And now if we list, all the text files that were here are gone, and if we list into our folder, you can see that those files got moved, right? If we want to actually delete a folder, we can just do rm and then add a flag of tag r. That's a flag. So that flag is kind of like, flags will typically start with that tag, while these are arguments that we are throwing into these commands, right? So to destroy a folder as opposed to a file, we can just do rm with a flag of tag r. Tag r stands for recursive, and we can remove our folder that we made. So there you go. If we list, the folder is now gone and off of the system. Now, real quick, I'll show you one more command that we can do, right? So I showed you guys how we can echo something like hello to a file.txt. And there you go. If we list, we have that file.txt. If we wanted to add on files, right? So right now, if we catted out that file, it says hello. But if we did, like, I don't know, if we echoed world to the file.txt, and if we catted out the file.txt, it would say world, because we basically overwrote the file. So if we wanted to add on something to the file, we could actually do echo, and then let's say we want to add the word subscribe, and then we want to output it to, instead of outputting it to file.txt, we can append it. So the double greater than sign will basically add it to the end of our file.txt. So if we run this and cat out our file.txt, it added it to the end instead of overrunning the file. So it's pretty helpful if you want to quickly add lines to the end of a file, or save the output of a command to a file, right? Even if we did ls and outputted it to list.txt and then catted out list.txt, it shows that it saved all the output of that ls command to that file. So if we want to save output, we can do so through that command. So that is what that does. I'll go ahead and clear if I'll list, and I'll remove all the .txt files in our here. So now we can see that they're all gone. Awesome. So another command we can run is who am I? Who am I kind of gets the user to know, who they are, and you basically get the username of the computer very quickly if you wanted to see what the username is. We can also do things like grep, for example, right? So I'll go ahead and I'll echo some stuff into a file. I guess we can do echo, and we'll do echo. Actually, I'll show you guys nano real quick. So let's say we want to do nano. So nano is basically a command to edit files. Let's say we want to nano a new file .txt. So basically take you into this interface where you can kind of edit files. The only thing you really need to know is to I guess certain things. I'll show you guys some of the basic stuff. So we can do like hello world, subscribe to Cosmodium. There you go. So some basic stuff. You can hit Control S to save, and then Control X to exit. If you want to, if I list now, you can see that file.txt is there. We can cat file.txt, and now we have the ability to write multiple lines to that file. Some other stuff we can do is, we can grep stuff. So if we cat out the contents of file.txt, it's going to show all the contents, right? But let's say if we only wanted to see items that have the letter S, we can filter it out. So instead of running cat.file.txt, we can use the pipe, which basically filters out output. And then what we can do is actually use the grep command. The grep is basically the filter. So the pipe will basically grab output and send it to another command, while the greater than sign will save it to a file, right? So we can save it to some sort of file, but with the pipe, it'll grab the output of this command, and then we can filter through it. So we can filter out certain things. So we can use the grep command to filter, and we're going to filter for anything that has the letter S. So if we run that, it's only going to show items with the letter S. So it shows subscribe and it shows Cosmodium, instead of actually showing the actual all the contents of the file. Cool. So we can do the same thing with the grep command. So we can list, and then we can take that output of the list command, grep, and filter it out for any of the contents that have the letter E, for example. And you can see it showed all the contents that we in our general directory that have the letter E in it. So we can go ahead RM and then delete that file .txt and list, and we are back to normal. Some other cool stuff you can do is using cat flag or the tatec help flag. So tatec help kind of will help you on certain commands. So if let's say if you forgot how cat works, you can do cat tatec help and kind of learn how that works. So it'll give you kind of some basic information on some of the flags for it and some other stuff for it. To go back to the bottom, you can just hit Control C, or to cancel any output, you can hit Control C. And then we can do man as well. So man is basically manuals, or it gives you the manual. It's very similar to help. It's just a little bit more, has more documentation and more information. So if we did man cat, for example, it gives you an entire manual on cat. You have to use your arrow keys to scroll through it, so up and down. But that kind of gives you some information on the thing as well. You can hit H for help, and you can hit Q for quit. We're just going to hit Q to quit. But that is basic syntax on the man command as well. And then I guess there's the other things like, so Control C is how you kind of cancel anything. So if we open like Python 3, for example, I'm sure if you guys programmed with Python 3 before, you might be familiar with it. But you can basically hit Control C to cancel any Python programs. You can hit Control D to exit, and we can actually hit Control D to exit our terminal, Control Q to quit, etc. But that's going to be it for this video. This is kind of teaching you guys some of the basic fundamentals of the Linux terminal. Next, or in the next section, we're going to talk about file permissions, groups, users, etc. To kind of help you guys understand how all that works within Linux. So thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. So stay happy, stay positive, and as always, happy hacking. Hey hackers, Blue Cosmo from CCS here, and I wanted to introduce you guys to the Happy Hacker Site plan. The Happy Hacker Site plan is a plan where you guys can support us for only $1 a month. That's right, $1. With this comes exclusive benefits like courses, articles, videos, and access to our entire cybersecurity knowledge base. If this interests you and you guys want to get access to all this, check out the link in the description. It's only $1, so we definitely appreciate your guys' support. Anyway, enjoy the video and happy hacking.